I used to believe that the universe had a sick sense of humor. How else do you explain what happened on the day I became an adult? My name's Liam. I'm 18 now, and if I told you that my family forgot my birthday, that would actually be kinder than what they really did. See, forgetting hurts, but what they did, that felt intentional. Like a punchline to a joke I didn't know I was in. Let me back up. I grew up in a small town where everyone knows your name and probably the color of your bed sheets. My family was the picture-perfect suburban unit. Mom, dad, 2 sons, picket fence, backyard BBQs. You know the type. My brother, Tyler, is 2 years younger than me. But if you ever met us together, you'd think he was the golden child, and I was some weird, distant cousin they reluctantly let sleep on the couch. Tyler was the loud one. Charming, athletic, always knew how to work a room. I was more background noise. Quiet, observant, the kind of kid who finishes their homework early just so no one gets mad. Mom and Dad never said they had a favorite, but you didn't need to say it when everything else screamed it. Tyler got hugs when he came home late. I got lectures if I didn't text within 10 minutes. He crashed the family car at 16 and got a newer one 6 months later. I asked for a used laptop for school and got a printed out list of jobs hiring teens. I always try not to let it get to me. I'd tell myself, maybe they think I'm more independent. Maybe they're harder on me because they expect more. You know, those little lies you feed yourself to make a bitter pill easier to swallow. But my 18th birthday? That's when the mask cracked. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had a math test that morning and I bombed it, totally tanked. I was already feeling low when I walked into the house after school. I figured maybe there'd be a small dinner or even just my favorite takeout. Something. I wasn't asking for fireworks or a parade, just a little nod that I mattered. Instead, I walked into a living room full of balloons and streamers, blues and silvers, happy birthday across the wall. My heart actually jumped for a second. I thought, oh, they did remember. And then Tyler walked in behind me, grinning ear to ear. What do you think? He said, eyes twinkling. Surprise. That's when I noticed the banner didn't say Happy 18th. It just said Happy Birthday. And Tyler? His birthday's 3 weeks away. Mom came out from the kitchen with a party hat on, already recording everything on her phone. You're home. She beamed at him, completely ignoring me. Quick, stand over there by the table. We need to get a shot before we cut the cake. I just stood there, my backpack still on, watching my entire family buzz around like it was Christmas morning. My dad gave Tyler a box, wrapped, with an actual bow, and Tyler tore into it like a kid. It was a brand new phone, the latest one. I still had a cracked secondhand model with a battery that lasted maybe 4 hours on a good day. I cleared my throat. Isn't today my birthday? Everyone froze, just for a beat. Then Mom turned to me, forced a laugh, and said, "Oh right. We didn't forget you, sweetheart. Here." She handed me a folded card and pointed at the kitchen counter where a small cake sat, half-eaten. No candles, no name, just a slice missing and the corner kind of mushed like someone had used it to prop open a drawer. The card read, "Be more like him." That was it. No joke, no love, not even a happy birthday. And then they laughed. It wasn't cruel at first, more like nervous laughter, like they thought it was all just a funny joke, and I was supposed to laugh too. But no one said just kidding. No one offered a second card or an actual gift. Just Tyler, holding his new phone, looking slightly uncomfortable before he looked away. I didn't say anything. I didn't cry. I just nodded, placed the card on the counter, and walked upstairs. That night, I packed a backpack. A hoodie, 2 shirts, jeans, socks, my phone charger, and the emergency $40 I had stashed in a shoebox under my bed. I waited until the house was quiet. Then I walked 4 blocks to the bus stop under the amber glow of a flickering streetlight and got on the last Greyhound heading into the city. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I couldn't stay. A week later, my mom left a voicemail. Her voice was shaky. She was crying. "Liam, please come home. We didn't know. We didn't think. Just please come back. Your dad's been driving around everywhere looking for you. Just please." I didn't pick up, because for the first time in my life, I felt free. But that's just the beginning. What they did next made everything worse. Way worse. Because instead of trying to make it right, they turned it into a performance. For their friends, for social media, for the family. Suddenly, I was the troubled kid who ran away from home because he couldn't handle discipline. And when I found out what Tyler said behind my back, That's when I stopped second-guessing myself. That's when I started planning what came next. The voicemail stayed in my inbox for 3 days before I even listened to the whole thing. I kept hovering my thumb over the play button, hearing those first few seconds of Mom's voice cracking, then backing out again. It wasn't that I didn't want to know what she had to say. It was that I already knew. It would be guilt wrapped in performative love, the kind you trot out for neighbors and nosy relatives. The kind that looks good on Facebook but doesn't hug you when you get home. I was crashing in a rundown youth hostel in the city. $50 a week if you didn't mind sharing a room with 2 guys who sold knockoff sunglasses during the day and played war-themed board games all night. I kept to myself, sleeping with my backpack under my head and the emergency cash zipped inside my sock. Every morning, I walked the streets like I belonged there. No plan, no backup, but I had this weird sense of calm. Like I'd finally stopped running on a treadmill someone else was controlling. But I was still hurt. Not just from the birthday. That was just the flashpoint. It was everything. Why can't you be more like Tyler? Every time I had to earn things twice as hard just to be noticed. Every dinner where they asked Tyler about football practice and barely acknowledged my honor roll certificate. It was like I'd been auditioning for a role I never got cast in. I didn't plan to go back. But life, as usual, had other plans. It started with my aunt, Denise. She was my mom's older sister, loud and unfiltered in the best possible way. She found out I'd left when Mom finally called her in a panic, probably hoping Denise would help do damage control. Instead, Denise called me, tracked down my number from an old Christmas group chat, and left a blunt, "Call me, Liam. Now." So I did. "Are you safe?" she asked. No hello, no warm-up. "Yeah," I replied, trying to sound steadier than I felt. "I'm okay." "You're 18 now," she said, like she was reminding herself. "They can't force you home. But that doesn't mean they won't try to make you the villain." I stayed silent. "I know what happened," she added. "Your mom told me some sanitized version, but I'm not stupid. I've seen how they treat you. I've always seen it. I just figured you'd outgrow it, or they'd grow up." Guess that didn't happen. That was the first time an adult had ever validated my experience out loud. It hit me like a brick. I actually had to sit down on a curb, my throat tight. "I don't have much," Denise said. "But if you ever need a place, really need a place, you call me." "Okay." I thanked her, hung up, and sat there watching the city breathe. Cars honking, people walking fast with coffees and deadlines, a guy shouting about a lost dog near the corner. I should have felt lonely. But instead, I felt like I'd finally found the first flicker of something solid. A week passed. Then 2. Then I made a mistake. I checked Tyler's Instagram. He'd posted photos from his birthday party. The one with the balloons and cake and phone. Except in the photos, he cropped me out. Literally. There was one picture where I remembered standing right next to him. My shoulder should have been visible at least, but he'd filtered and framed it so carefully it looked like I hadn't even been there. As if I never existed in that moment. The caption read, "Best birthday ever. So lucky to have the most supportive family. Wouldn't be who I am without them." That stung. But what shattered me was the comment section. "Mom, you deserve everything, sweetie. Your heart is pure gold. Dad, proud doesn't even begin to cover it. Family friend Karen, handsome and humble. Unlike some people." The some people wasn't subtle. Karen was the kind of person who called kids like me too sensitive when we spoke up. She once told me depression was a choice. I almost replied. I almost typed out a bitter paragraph explaining how that party was mine. That I turned 18 that day. That they gave me a used cake and a card that basically told me to erase who I was. But I didn't. I just stared at that comment section for a long time, heart pounding like it wanted to claw its way out of my chest. Then I threw my phone onto the mattress and let it ring when Mom called again later that night. The turning point wasn't dramatic. No huge argument, no screaming match. It was subtle, quiet, like a splinter finally working its way to the surface. It happened when I got an email from my high school guidance counselor. "Hi, Liam. I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to check in because your parents asked me to remove you from the early college admission list and delay your applications until next semester. They said you were taking time off to get your head on straight. Is that true? Let me know. I can help if you need support." My blood ran cold. I hadn't said anything about taking time off. I was applying for early decision. I had my essays saved in Google Docs, half ready. The city library gave free internet, and I'd been planning to use it over the weekend to submit everything. They were sabotaging my future. That's when I realized it wasn't just about a birthday or being overlooked. They didn't just not care about me. They were actively working against me. And for what? Because I left? Because I finally said, enough? I called the counselor immediately and told her the truth. That I'd left home, but not because I was unstable, because my home was. I didn't go into the whole birthday story, but I said enough. I asked her not to accept any requests about my file unless they came from me directly. She agreed, her voice sympathetic, then emailed to confirm she'd restored my applications and locked my profile from outside edits. I hung up shaking, furious, but strangely calm. Like the moment before a storm when the sky goes still. I was done playing nice. But what came next, that was the real betrayal. Denise called me a few days later, whispering like she didn't want someone to hear. I just left your parents' house, she said. They invited me over for dinner to patch things up. But Liam, it wasn't about you. I blinked, sitting up in bed. What do you mean? They wanted me to take Tyler in for a few weeks, she said. Said they needed space. That things were too tense at home with you gone. And Tyler was struggling emotionally. I laughed, thinking she was joking. But she wasn't. They said he's been acting out because he misses you, Denise continued. But then your mom pulled me aside and said, and I quote, we need Liam to see that running away doesn't get him attention. We're trying reverse psychology. If Tyler stays with you, maybe Liam will come home and stop this nonsense. My mouth went dry. They were using your brother like a pawn, Liam, she said quietly. And worse, Tyler agreed to it. I didn't know what hurt more, that they were manipulating me, or that Tyler was in on it. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. He had always played both sides, Mr. Peacemaker when it suited him, silent enabler when it didn't. But this was a new low. I asked Denise not to take him in. She hesitated. I won't, she said eventually. But Liam, they're not going to stop. They're calling relatives, painting this narrative where you're the troubled runaway. They've got people believing you're on drugs, or got someone pregnant, or that you're just rebelling. It's all a lie. But they're building it, brick by brick. I thanked her again. Then I ended the call. And that night, something inside me shifted. I opened my laptop at the public library and started writing. Not a rant. Not a diary entry. A plan. See, they thought I was gone and forgotten. They thought I was alone, drifting, desperate to come crawling back. But what they didn't know, I was finally seeing them clearly. Every mask, every lie. And this time, I wasn't going to walk away. Not quietly. Not again. After that call with Denise, everything felt different. The fog that had been hanging over me since the night I left had finally lifted. I wasn't floating anymore. I was falling, with purpose. But first, I had to survive. You know that phrase, rock bottom? I used to think it looked like some guy on a park bench with nothing but a tattered coat and a bottle in a paper bag. But for me, rock bottom looked like waking up in the hostel at 4 a.m. to find my backpack unzipped and my emergency cash gone. No broken lock, no smashed window. Just gone. Probably someone I'd shared a room with. Probably someone who'd watched me sleep with it under my head for days. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch a wall or run back to the house and bang on the door, demanding they help me. But I didn't. I just sat there in the dark, staring at the empty zipper like it might suddenly give me answers. The next morning, I tried to laugh it off. You got played. I muttered to myself in the hostel bathroom mirror. Congratulations. You learned the hard way. I had $6 left in my wallet. A granola bar in my hoodie. My phone at 22%. That was the moment I stopped feeling angry at my parents. I started feeling numb. Because the thing about being on your own is, there's no safety net. No cushion to fall back on. When things go wrong, and they will, you don't get rescued. You get the choice, figure it out, or disappear. So I figured it out. I started spending my days at the city library, not just because of the Wi-Fi or warmth, but because it was the only place I felt invisible and alive at the same time. Surrounded by books, by stories of people who had clawed their way out of worse, I found something close to peace. I'd sit there for hours, applying for jobs, finishing college applications, and just reading. Every once in a while, I'd think about what my family was probably saying. He's being dramatic. He's just trying to punish us. He'll come crawling back when he realizes he can't make it. But I didn't want to go back. Not for help. Not for pity. And definitely not to give them the satisfaction of being right. One afternoon, while aimlessly browsing job listings, I overheard a conversation behind me. Two guys were talking about how their usual delivery runner bailed. One of them looked over at me, probably because I'd been sitting at that same table for a week straight, and said, "Hey, you know how to ride a bike?" I blinked. Yeah? Want to make 30 bucks? That's how I started working for a tiny sandwich shop 4 blocks from the library. It wasn't glamorous. They didn't even give me a bike. Just a dented old one I could borrow if I agreed to fix the tires myself. I did. I patched the inner tube with duct tape and prayer and started doing deliveries around the city, cash tips only. The first day, I made $42. More than I'd ever made doing chores in that house. I ate a real meal that night. Cheap ramen, an apple, and one of those chocolate bars that cost more than it should but made me feel human again. Over the next few weeks, I built a routine. Wake up early, shower at the gym. The sandwich shop owner slipped me a free membership after I covered 3 double shifts. Deliver sandwiches from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Work on college stuff in the evenings at the library, then crash at the hostel. It was small, fragile, but it was mine. I started keeping a small notebook where I wrote down goals, quotes I overheard, weird dreams, even just random thoughts. One day I wrote, "You are not invisible. You are just growing in the dark." That line stuck with me. By mid-November, I had enough saved to move out of the hostel. Denise helped me find a room for rent in a quiet neighborhood near the edge of the city, an old woman renting out her basement for cheap in exchange for some basic chores. It was cold, drafty, and smelled like mothballs, but I had a key. A place that locked. A space of my own. Denise even gave me a secondhand laptop. Nothing fancy, but enough to write essays and check email without living at the library. She didn't ask for anything in return. The first time I brought her groceries just to say thanks, she looked at me like I'd handed her gold. "You've always been a good kid," she said softly. They just didn't know how to see it. I almost broke down crying in her driveway. The week before Christmas, I got my first college acceptance. It wasn't my dream school, but it was mine. Full ride. They offered me a spot in their spring semester if I could prove financial independence. I called the admissions office, explained my situation, and sent them everything: letters, old bank statements, even a note from Denise. 2 days later, they called back and said, "Welcome." I got off the phone and sat in the middle of the floor, staring at the email with my name on it. That night, I bought a small cupcake from the bakery down the street, lit a candle, sang myself a quiet congratulations. I still didn't tell my parents. Not yet. They were still posting family selfies online. Thanksgiving dinner with Tyler at the head of the table, Mom's caption, "Grateful for the son who stayed." My name didn't come up. No mention. Like I'd been erased. But that was fine. Because I wasn't gone. I was building. And little by little, I was becoming someone they couldn't touch anymore. The best part? Tyler reached out. It started with a text. "Tyler, hey, you good?" I stared at it for a long time. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just exhausted. But something told me not to ignore him. So I replied, "Me. Doing all right. You." He waited a full day before answering. "Tyler, things are weird here. They talk about you like you're some kind of ghost. Mom cried last week because she saw your toothbrush still in the bathroom. That hit me harder than I expected. Not because I missed them, but because they were only mourning the idea of me, not the person they pushed away. Tyler, I didn't know they were going to use me like that. I thought they actually wanted to help you come back. I'm sorry." I didn't reply right away. What could I even say? That sorry didn't undo 18 years of being second best? That I wished he'd stood up for me when it mattered? That I hated how easily he could slide into the role of victim and hero, depending on the room? But I also remembered something Denise had said once. You don't have to let people back in, but don't let them rot inside you either. So I sent him one line. "Me. Thanks. I'm figuring things out." That was enough for now. Weeks passed. Christmas came and went. I spent it with Denise, just the two of us and her overweight tabby cat. We watched bad holiday movies, ate too much pie, and played cards late into the night. At one point, she looked over at me and said, "You know, you're not broken. You were just raised in the wrong spotlight." I didn't reply, just nodded, because she was right. In January, I packed my things into 2 suitcases and moved into my college dorm. My roommate was a transfer student named Gabe. Loud, sarcastic, always eating chips, but genuine. We hit it off fast. He didn't care about my past, only wanted to know what I wanted to do. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to shrink myself. I started attending classes, joined a few clubs, Even found a part-time job helping in the campus writing center. Turns out, helping other people tell their stories made me feel more in control of my own. One day, Gabe caught me looking at a photo I'd printed, me and Denise, arms around each other, smiling in front of her Christmas tree. He grinned. "That your mom?" I smirked. "Better." That spring, I got an email from a publishing contest I'd entered on a whim. They picked my essay, one I wrote about leaving home, for the top prize. It would be printed in a small literary journal and shared with incoming freshmen. I read the acceptance 3 times before it sank in. And then, as if on cue, I got another email. From my dad. Just the subject line. "Let's talk." And just like that, the past wasn't behind me anymore. It was knocking at the door. I stared at the subject line for what felt like an hour. "Let's talk." 2 words, no punctuation, no warmth. It came from my dad's old work email, the one he used when he wanted to sound serious. Not "Dad." Not "Hey, son." Just a command wrapped in lowercase letters, dropped in my inbox like a pebble trying to cause ripples in a lake that had already frozen over. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I walked down the hall to the campus cafe, bought myself the strongest coffee they had, and sat by the window with my phone in my lap. For a second, I considered deleting the email without reading it. But something in me paused. Not curiosity, exactly. More like strategy. Something had shifted in me these last few months. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was planning. And to plan properly, you need information. So I opened the email. "Liam, we've been thinking about you a lot. It's not the same here without you. Your mom's having a hard time, and Tyler's been quieter lately. We'd really like to talk. Maybe get dinner if you're willing. I know things didn't end well, but we want to make things right. Let us know. Dad." It was cleaner than I expected. No accusations. No manipulative guilt trips. Just a carefully worded olive branch. But here's the thing. I'd seen them make things right before. I'd watched them sweep problems under the rug so many times that the floor had bumps in it. I didn't need closure. I needed the truth. And I needed them to feel what it was like to be on the outside looking in. Because something had been bothering me ever since that call with my high school counselor. How had they accessed my college applications in the first place? They couldn't log in without my password. They shouldn't have been able to request changes or removals. And then it hit me. They didn't need to. They just needed to pretend to be me. I opened up my email account, searched through my sent messages from back when I still lived at home. Sure enough, there it was, an old forwarded message from my school with the link to the student portal. The header still said, "FWD, keep this link private." Mom had access. So did Tyler, probably. Maybe even Dad. And that meant they could have called the counselor or even logged in pretending to be me. And if they did it once, they might have done it again. That night, I changed every password I had. Not just email, banking, college portals, job applications, even my Netflix account. I activated 2-factor authentication on everything and registered a new email just for college and financial aid. I wasn't going to be blindsided again. And I started thinking, if they were willing to sabotage my future just to control the narrative, what else had they done that I didn't know about? I made a list. Who knew I left? What did they tell people? Who believed them? Who didn't? The more I thought about it, the more I realized just how much power they had, socially, emotionally, even financially. Because I'd never declared myself financially independent legally, they still could have access to certain records. FAFSA, medical records. And if I didn't separate myself properly, they could keep interfering. So I went to the financial aid office and asked what I needed to do to declare myself an independent student. It wasn't easy. I had to prove estrangement, show that I paid my own bills, and submit letters from third parties. Denise helped. So did my old counselor. They both wrote letters explaining the situation, backing up my story without over-dramatizing it. It took 3 weeks, but I was finally approved. And with that, they lost their grip. Now they couldn't see my grades, couldn't adjust my status, couldn't pull strings behind the scenes anymore. I was untouchable, but I didn't want revenge just for me. I wanted to expose what they'd done, to make sure everyone they had lied to saw the truth. And the opportunity came from the last place I expected. Tyler. He texted me again. Short message. "Tyler, they're planning something." I raised an eyebrow and replied. "Me? Something like what?" His answer came a minute later. "Tyler, they're throwing a big party for Dad's 50th, inviting everyone. Relatives, neighbors, even your old teachers." I blinked. That didn't sound sinister on its own. Until the next message came through. Tyler, they're going to make a speech about how they forgave you even though you broke the family. They want people to think they took the high road. They're rehearsing it with me. I stared at my phone, heart thudding, not in fear, but in anticipation. This was it. This was the moment I could flip the narrative. I called Tyler. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Last I heard, you were fine playing both sides. He sighed. I was. I didn't get it before. But watching them script this speech like it's some redemption movie, like you were just a phase they overcame, that felt gross. Did you say anything? I tried. They shut me down. Said I don't understand family loyalty. I laughed bitterly. Of course they did. We were both quiet for a beat. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said. I just thought you should know. Do what you want with it. And just like that, he gave me the key. I spent the next 2 weeks planning. First, I reached out to Aunt Denise. Told her everything. She was furious, not just at the manipulation, but at the performance of it all. They're rewriting the script, she said. But you still hold the pen. So we made a plan. Denise was still invited to the party. So were a few other extended relatives who had quietly reached out to me in support over the last few months. People I hadn't replied to at the time, but who I now realized could be allies. I drafted a letter. Not a rant. Not a list of complaints. Just the truth. What really happened? The birthday. The voicemail. The sabotage. I included screenshots of emails and texts, dates, even a snippet of the voicemail, cropped so it didn't sound cruel, just revealing enough to be real. I titled it, What They Don't Want You to Know About Why I Left. I printed it on nice paper. Clean font. Signed my name at the bottom. Denise agreed to hand out the letters discreetly at the party, to people she trusted. She even planned to place a few near the entrance table where people would be picking up their name tags and seating assignments. Just casual enough to blend in. Just bold enough to get noticed. I didn't want a spectacle. I wanted exposure. And then, the cherry on top, I recorded a short video. Just 2 minutes. Me, sitting calmly in my dorm room. Not angry. Not broken. Just me. I said, Hi. If you're watching this, you probably know me as the kid who left. Maybe you've heard I was unstable, or selfish, or going through something dramatic. The truth is simpler. I left because I was treated like I didn't matter. I didn't leave to punish anyone. I left to save myself. I'm doing okay now. Better than okay. I'm safe, in school, and finally living life on my terms. I don't want pity. I don't want drama. I just want the truth out there, because for a long time, they spoke for me. Now, I'm speaking for myself. Thank you for listening. I uploaded it privately to YouTube, unlisted. Denise printed QR codes and tucked one into each letter. Let people read. Let them see. The day of the party came. I didn't go. I spent the afternoon at the student union with Gabe, eating greasy pizza and playing cards. I didn't need to be there. My presence wasn't required. But my truth? That would show up without me. At 9:42 p.m., I got the first message. Cousin Jake. Holy crap, Liam. I had no idea. Just watch your video. I'm sorry. I always thought they were just strict. That birthday story, man. That broke me. Then came another. Mr. Randall, old English teacher. I owe you an apology. I believed the version they told me. But I see now how much they distorted the story. You deserved better. And then, from Tyler. Tyler, you did it. 2 words. But I knew what he meant. The speech never happened. Denise told me later that once the letters started circulating, people began talking. Quietly at first, then more boldly. A few even confronted my parents directly. My mom cried. My dad got angry. They blamed Denise. Accused her of conspiring. But the damage was done. The truth was out. And the story they tried to script? It had been torn up and rewritten. By me. In the hours after the party, my phone buzzed so much I thought the vibration would burn a hole through my desk. I didn't answer most messages. I didn't need to. People weren't messaging me because they wanted something. They were messaging because they finally knew. Something about that quiet validation hit differently. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It just felt clean, honest, like air clearing after a storm. But the fallout? That part wasn't quiet at all. The morning after the party, Denise called. Not texted, called. She rarely did that unless something important was happening. Sit down, she said the moment I answered. I'm in bed, I replied. Fine, stay lying down. But brace yourself. She took a breath. Your parents are in damage control mode. Hard. They've been calling relatives all morning, trying to explain the misunderstanding. I laughed under my breath. Let me guess. Suddenly my letter was fake, the screenshots were edited, and the voicemail was taken out of context. Oh, they went further, she said. Your dad tried to say he wanted to give you space, but you twisted the narrative. Your mom cried for 30 minutes straight. And then one of the uncles pointed out that the date on the cake photo they posted last year didn't match Tyler's birthday. And you know what your dad did? What? He blamed the bakery. I covered my face with my pillow and groaned. Somehow, that was both pathetic and predictable. What about Tyler? I asked, sitting up. He left early, Denise said. After the confrontation started, he said he was done with the theater and walked out. Haven't heard from him since. That surprised me. The quiet kind of surprise that doesn't hit all at once, but in slow pulses. What now? I asked. That's up to you, she said. They're losing the narrative, Liam. People aren't buying the poor misunderstood parent story anymore. If you want to open the door a crack for them to explain, you can. But if you want to keep your distance, no one will blame you. I thanked her, told her I needed time. Then I hung up and sat there staring at the blank screen of my laptop. Revenge wasn't a single moment. It wasn't the letter. It wasn't the video. It wasn't even the scene at the party. Revenge was a slow, steady shift of power. Revenge was control. And for the first time, I had it. 2 days later, my dad emailed me again. This time the subject line read, "Please." I opened it. Not quickly, not eagerly, just with a calm curiosity that still felt new to me. Liam, things got out of hand at the party. People misunderstood us. That wasn't how we wanted things to go. We want to explain in person. We want to make amends. Your mother is very upset. Please, Dad. Not a single mention of what they actually did. Just vague phrases like misunderstood and got out of hand. As if the truth wasn't the truth, as if I hadn't lived every moment of it. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Instead, I drafted a different email. Not to them, to the college's administrative office. I requested a formal restriction on information released to my parents, confirming I was legally independent and wished for no contact from them regarding school matters. They approved it within 48 hours. Then I blocked my parents' numbers. Not permanently, just until I decided what the next step was. Because the thing about revenge is that it doesn't have to be flashy. It just has to be final. Weeks passed. My life settled into something that felt stable, grounded. Gabe and I were practically brothers by this point. I learned how to cook something other than microwave ramen. I joined a writing group. I even got hired as a peer mentor for incoming freshmen, which paid more than my sandwich shop job and came with free meal vouchers. Things were good, peaceful. The strange part? My parents' absence didn't feel like a missing limb. It felt like scar tissue, there, but not aching anymore. But peace alone wasn't the ending to this story. Not the whole ending, anyway. Because there was still one last thread to tie off. One last move. And it came from Tyler. He showed up on campus out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting him. I was sitting outside the campus bookstore, eating a bagel and reviewing an essay draft, when I heard someone clear their throat. I looked up. There he was, hands in pockets, shoulders slightly hunched, hair tousled like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. He looked older, somehow. Not physically, just heavier. Like reality finally sat on him. "Hey," he said. I leaned back in my chair. "Didn't think I'd see you around here." "I know. Sorry to ambush you. I tried texting but you didn't answer." I glanced at my phone. I changed numbers. "Oh." He nodded, then looked at the ground. "Makes sense." We stood there in silence for a moment. The kind that sits between two people who grew up in the same house, but never really knew each other. Finally, he said, "I wanted to talk. Face to face. About the party? About everything." I gestured for him to sit. He did. He took a deep breath. "You were right," he said quietly. "About the favoritism. About the double standards. I didn't see it. Well, I saw it, but I didn't want to. It benefited me. And when something benefits you, it's easy to pretend it isn't happening." His honesty startled me. I didn't interrupt. "After you left," he continued, "they freaked out. Not because they missed you, at least not in the way they said. They panicked because the family image cracked. They cared more about what people thought than where you were. And I let them use me to patch the image." He swallowed. "That's on me." I stayed silent, letting the words land. He glanced at me. "You don't have to forgive me. I just didn't want to be another person who disappears when things get uncomfortable." I didn't know what to say, so I asked a simple question. "Why tell me about the party?" "Because it wasn't right," he said. And because you deserved a chance to tell your side. You deserved a voice. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he asked, "Are you happy?" I thought about it. About the room I rented. About the job I liked. About the classes that challenged me. About the friends I was making. About the future that finally felt like mine. "Yeah," I said. "I am." He nodded, almost smiled. "Good." Before he stood up to leave, he added, "Mom and Dad are spiraling. People are looking at them differently now. Asking questions. They don't know how to handle it." "That's not my problem anymore," I said. He let out a quiet breath. "I know. And that's what scares them." He reached into his pocket and placed something on the table before walking away. It was the birthday card. The one that said, "Be more like him." Except this time, something new was written underneath it in smaller handwriting. His handwriting. "I'm sorry. I should have been more like you." I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just felt done. Fully, completely done. The revenge had already happened, not in explosions or screaming matches, but in the quiet unraveling of their narrative. The downfall wasn't mine. It was theirs. Their lies fell apart under their own weight. Their control crumbled when I stopped needing their approval. Their reputation cracked when the truth came out. And the moment they realized they couldn't script my life anymore, that was the moment everything shifted. I walked back to my dorm, card in my hand, feeling something I hadn't felt since I was a kid. Light. And when I finally tossed the card into the trash outside my building, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. Because revenge isn't always fire. Sometimes it's walking away from the flames without looking back. And that's exactly what I did. The final line? The one that closes the book on all of this. I didn't win by destroying them. I won by becoming someone they could never hurt again.